On the Business Courier front page centerpiece this week, imagine placing your hard-earned dollars with an investment advisor you know and trust, only to get an email that says, sorry, we're closed. Call the IRS if you have any questions. Well, that was the scenario that played out this summer for the more than 160 clients of Glenn Guillermo. Guillermo worked out of this Walnut Hills office. Attorneys for former investors claim their clients' money vanished in a massive Ponzi scheme. They allege that Guillermo never invested the $100 million or so he received from investors, even though he told them that he was buying stocks and achieving outstanding returns.
It's a very broad spectrum of clients. Some people needed a monthly draw out of their accounts to live on. Some people who were more long-term investors would just let their investment ride.
Mr. Guillermo has cooperated with authorities in this investigation and shall continue to do so. This cooperation has included agreeing to certain requests by prosecutors and investigators.
In addition to the Guillermo case, there have been other local headlines alleging fraud. Candace Klein of Cincinnati-based SomoLend allegedly made false statements to professional investors, inflating the amount of business loans. Brenda Ashcraft, a Milford real estate investor, allegedly bilked people out of $15 million in investments. And a federal grand jury indicted her for allegedly defrauding investors in her French Manor properties. State Rep Peter Beck of Mason and another local man, John Fussner, are accused of scamming investors out of more than $200,000. Beck was CFO, and Fussner was president of Christopher Technologies. Business Courier reporter Steve Watkins spent a lot of time digging into this story. He joins me now in the studio with more on why so many fraud allegations seem to be surfacing right now. Steve, good to have you with us.
Thanks, Brian.
So is there more fraud, or are they just finding out about more fraud?
Well, it's a little of both, actually. There is an uptick in the number of cases. That's what regulators told me. But also they're increasing their efforts, and thus they're catching them more, so we're all finding out about them more often.
So what are the people with the responsibility to do something about this doing about it?
Well, a lot of things. The Ohio Division of Securities has increased their efforts. They say they've stepped up their intentions to get more criminal charges in these cases. And the U.S. Attorney General's office locally actually added a financial fraud unit a couple of years ago. They saw an uptick in this stuff happening right in the wake of the financial crisis, and they said, hey, we need some more people to be dedicated just to this kind of stuff. So they're doing a lot of things. They're also working with local law enforcement authorities a lot more often. And the more comfortable those guys get with these kind of crimes, the more often they're able to charge people.
I have to admit, I'm one of those that doesn't keep a real close eye on my investments. I believe I'm with a respectable firm. What can we do to prevent this from happening to us?
Well, first of all, you are far from in the minority on that. Most people don't watch this stuff as closely as they probably should, and people just don't have the time to do it. That's why they hire an investment advisor. First of all, trust your instincts. One of the sayings people have is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and that is almost always correct. The other thing along those lines is that a lot of times there have been a few cases regulators told me about where somebody's relative, an older person's nephew, just said something sounded fishy, and they were correct. So also you can look up a lot of regulatory licensing and things like that. Organization called FINRA has something called Broker Check online. You can get a lot of information that way about whether people have the right licenses.
There's a lot of good information in your story. I want to encourage all of you to read it in the print edition and online. Steve, we appreciate you. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.